we're connected to the markets, that he reaps the dividends, economic density, where employees and workers become more productive and more. New businesses spring up and existing ones become there is a big neck to Lagos much needed progress, and that is to build the infrastructure needed to solve this problem. Investment, both local and content provider. It is no brainer that we have partnered with Dan Institutes of Research to trace the history of and identify the remote problem. I'm delighted of the level presented here this morning by the Honorable Commissioner for Transport, Dr. Frederick Oladende. I welcome Hadediran, President Chadatin, all our audience from wherever it is that you have joined us. I really, really look forward to the conversation here this morning. The mainland to the highland on a daily basis, growth of Lagosians, of those that work in Lagos and those that live in Lagos is definitely connected to solving this traffic problem. I look forward to this. Tayo, back to you.
Max. Over to you, Dr. Oladende.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tayo. Hope everybody can hear me. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. First of all, let me thank the Dane Institute for Research for putting this very important dialogue together, as well as the Business Day. Thanks for inviting us to this very important topic of productivity and connectivity. In Lagos, in transportation infrastructure, it's critical to sustain economic growth. And that's why we're putting a lot of money into our infrastructure. So if you're following the budget passed recently, you will find out that close to 40% of the development strategy, which is pillar and mass of Nigeria, 89 people is added to our population area. So that means that we have to 1 million people that is added to the population of Lagos every year. And by 2030, 30 million people will be residing in Lagos. And by 2100, we would have 88 million people in Lagos. Now let's look at the average in Nigeria, which is 16. Clear to me that we cannot build ourselves out of congestion. And so we have to look for a sustainable way of moving people from one point to the other, which is why we're investing a lot in our public transport. So what are the strategic directions for Lagos State? So the first one is we're looking to develop a much wider path, create options for the people of Lagos State. Now, half of the population in Lagos spend 40% or around that of their on transportation, and that's high. And we have to find a way of getting that down. Private investment in our infrastructure, and that's something that we're talking about. And most importantly, we need to modernize our transport system in Lagos. So let me just quickly talk about what we're doing, and then I'll look forward to hearing some new ideas so that we can embed those and then take them on board. So first of all, let me just categorize them into put them into three broad categories. So first of all, we need to maximize the existing network. That's why we're taking out most of our roundabouts. The gridlock, we have identified 60 gridlock points in Lagos. When our roundabouts were developed, the population was about 5 million. And we increased the capacity and to improve the level of service of our roundabouts. The second thing that we're doing is to solve all the potholes. That's why you have PwC, that's the public works, going around making. We fix the potholes and then maximize the capacity. We also finish, we have a massive drainage program going on in Lagos. The road is only as good as your drainage system. If your drainage system is bad, your road will, it only takes a matter of time before your road goes bad. And so we are looking into that. Recently, we announced the restrictions on trucks, because when you look at what is happening in Lagos, we have a lot of trucks that break down. They eat into the capacity of Lagos and the productivity time. We are deploying a lot of tech to ensure that we enforce the traffic law, that system, which is a handheld device, which last month will be used to collaboration with the Nigerian Ports Authority to deploy a call-up system and to develop truck parks, just to make sure that you do not have any business in Apapa, you do not have to attend to you. So the second point I want to talk about very quickly is the fact that Lagos State has developed a strategic transport master plan. And there is no hiding behind the curtain that we have to reform our public transport system, no doubt about that. And that's why we have recommended 7 rail lines. We have embarked on one, that's the blue line from Marina to Okokomaiko. We're stopping at Mile 2 first, and then we'll then take it to Okokomaiko at some point. Very soon, the government will make an announcement on the red line. So we're taking that from Agbado all the way to Winigbo, and then later to Marina. And then later, we will look at the green line that will take care of the Lekki axis. We'll look at the yellow line, the orange line, the brown line, and then the monorail that will form a network of rail that we need in Lagos to move the massive amount of people that are moving into Lagos. Secondly, we're developing various BLT corridors. Recently, we've completed the Oshodi to Abule Egba. We also have Oduro BLT, and then we'll be building more. So in the matter of 13 BLTs, we also have feeder routes, and these are the quality bus corridors that Lamata is building, and to feed into your BLT and eventually feed into your rail. And then we have the last that the governor will be mentioning next month. And this last mile will take the place of what Kada is doing, what your Kekenapepe is doing. These are the ones that go into the communities and then bring out to the network, and then just take them to the BT and or your rail. And then you can see that we're beginning to build a hierarchy of public just to give people options. Waterway transportation is something that to take pressure off the Badagry corridors. So we're looking to develop water transport from Badagry all the way to Marina so that you can take off Lagos Badagry Expressway. When you look at the Finland Bridge, we're looking at Ikorodu, we're looking at Agboiketu, looking at Badore, we're looking at Ajasway. And that's very important. So it makes public transport attractive also. Very soon, Lamata developing the Marina and Mile 2 interchange. So I'm not very soon, Ikeja is coming up, Oyigbo is coming up, and these are the places where the various modes of transport meet, and then you can interchange, complete your journey. Also, we are what we call the intelligent transport system. This gives people information on journeys that, and you know, the various routes and then the travel times on the various routes so that you can have options of which routes to travel on network. It's important to know that Lagos State cannot build itself out of congestion. Very important because of the sheer number of people that are coming in bulk with it. And that's why the Lagos State is investing in the regional road, which is an 8.4 kilometer 3-lane dual carriageway all the way from Lagos State. Needs to take pressure off Carter Bridge, Eco Bridge, as well as Third Mainland Bridge. We're investing in Penn Cinema. Very soon, Penn Cinema will be open. You know, the Lagos Badagry Expressway in collaboration with the federal government, Agrikisha, Igbogbo Road. All these are roads that we are developing just to make sure that we improve the connectivity in Lagos. So in a nutshell, we're beginning to develop modes that will increase the speed on our network, and then that will move people in mass from one point to the other. Very important. Easy access with the transport plan so that when you integrate that, we can take advantage of the stations around employers to develop, like transit-oriented buildings, etc. We are also ensuring that once we implement the Third Mainland Bridge, 80% of your trips, which is about 25 kilometers, will be done in 1 hour. So the problem we have in Lagos is the fact that we do not have options. And what this master plan and what the government of Babajide Sanwo-Olu is doing is to give people option to use technology to actually improve the efficiency of our public transport rail line and to integrate them in such a way that people can move seamlessly in the state. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. This is really, really rich details, and this is the whole idea, I imagine, behind such a webinar, this public-private discussion dialogue between. And I know you stay on because I know our viewers will have questions. So I'll just quickly give out before we go to the next event, the next open. Go on your phone or on your computer to slido.com, and you will enter enter code #BBTC. And once you enter that hashtag, it allows you to enter questions that you can post to either to the Honorable Commissioner or to any of the panelists who will be speaking, or to Professor Vade, who will make a presentation. She taught me on my MBA program, and she has years and years experience in change management, especially in private sector, which she's now applying to Dani Institute for Research on the public sector, just basically to kind of replicate the same change and transformation in the private sector as well as the activity in Lagos.
The governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, who is represented here by Dr. Frederick Oladende, the Commissioner of Transport, for this public-private sector dialogue on connectivity and productivity. Just a little bit of history before we go to traffic congestion and why Lagos improved between 1999 and 2015 compared to, say, 1990 to 1999. But as we went on with this research, the lead researcher, Tayo, came back to me twice. That was how the doors were open. Be a lot we are losing to so much traffic. So let me share my slide and okay, there we go. So let me begin by looking at Lagos. You know, many of us have lived in Lagos so many years of our lives. We feel some of us can't imagine even living elsewhere. The population of Lagos, we know, is about 21 million, depending on whether it's Lagos Bureau of Statistics or the National Bureau you look at. The figures will be a little different, but it's high. The Commissioner for Transport just told us that about 1 million people come into Lagos every year. Now, these people are not coming. They know very well the role of the immigrants in other climes, especially in the US, in Canada too, and in many countries. Immigrants who are hungry, they have the fire in the belly, and they go to a new place to make things happen. So Lagos has a huge supply of these people. It also has the largest number of skilled workers in Nigeria. It has so much in terms of internally generated revenue, about 70% or so of its revenue is internally generated. Lagos has, and this is most interesting, 11 millionaire cities. That is cities within Lagos mega city that have a financial hub of Nigeria, is the 5th largest economy. The commissioner has reminded us of. He has everything you would say to make it, work for people to be productive. Businesses could reach such a huge. It is one of the least livable cities in the world, according to the Economic Intelligence Unit. Labor productivity in Nigeria is negative. Traffic jams in Lagos are so bad. On a bad day, it could be 7 hours. Somebody told me that when he got out of his car after 5-6 hours in traffic, he felt like the number 4. He had been sitting down for so long, he couldn't kind of unbundle himself. And this is Lagos. In 2015, Lagos had the lowest score of 11 African countries in the City Prosperity Index. And what I found very interesting there is that it had the least scores. Lagos had least scores in product percent or so, and infrastructure 37. But the productivity 16.11 for a city that has so much potential, it seems to have what it takes, and also for the government. So what's the problem of Lagos? The economy, where they say that productivity rises as cities in developing countries grow. They actually researched it and found out that when population doubles, productivity rises 5 to 6%. Interestingly, this was happening in developing countries, but it wasn't happening in Africa. It wasn't happening in Lagos. Lagos, with all what we've just seen it has and much more, it wasn't happening. The growth of Lagos megacity is not leading to productivity increases. Why? Why is labor productivity so low still in Lagos? And because Lagos has density, it has population, and this population has doubled over time, and is about to, from the figures that the Commissioner for Transport just shared with us, is going to double again in the future. So what's the problem? The problem, what we found in our research is that density must go with connectivity for economic growth to happen, for productivity to happen. So Lagos, with its millionaire cities, its supply of skilled labor, people who are looking to make it in life, people with hunger, in the belly, and also fire in the belly, a large market, a seaport, an airport, everything. What's lacking there? Connectivity seems to be key. And that is a problem here. So let's look at density. If we look at this slide, which shows the population of several cities in Lagos, in Nigeria, sorry. If you look at Lagos population in year 2000, according to UN World Cities booklet, was about 7 million. And by 2018, it's 13.4 million, almost double. Look at Benin. Benin also grew, all right? If you look in general, you see that the population of Lagos is the population of several cities in Nigeria put together. Of course, this creates complications and challenges, but it also tells us of a huge opportunity. High concentration of people in one location makes it easier to move those people from one place to another, because you can have economies. The economies of scale, and therefore lower transport costs, play out in this way. In this next slide, let's look at the millionaire cities in Lagos. Cities in Lagos, Lagos mega city, but there are 11 or so millionaire cities within Lagos itself. Okay, and they are large and they are growing. Look at 1991 population census. Alimosho with about 430. All right. Now in 2006, it went to 2 million. Of course, by 2020, it's much more than that. We don't have updated figures for all of this, but it's quite interesting to see how much this has grown, and how, when we talk of Lagos, many times I say this person doesn't live in Lagos city itself. This is a mega city with many cities. Now, how do we connect those people and ensure that we make things happen? All right, because the sprawl is happening mainly in the mainland. And most of those people have to come to the business district, to Ikoyi, to VI, to the island to work. And of course, what happens? The bridges connect the mainland to the island, and people spend hours just trying to get to work every day. The distance between these millionaire cities is also much, and the distance between them and Lagos Island is, so there is a problem there. If there were few people, maybe you get them, but density has its advantages. If there is a mass transit system, you could move people. After all, what does London have? Is the population of London not high also? And many elites in Nigeria, when they go to London, you find them in the underground, from the airport to wherever they're going. It clears the people from one place to another very easily, the underground. So too many people moving the island, for example, they are moving to work, but also to markets. There are several markets in Lagos Island, huge, significant markets that attract people not only within Lagos, but outside Lagos, different parts of the country. They come to buy and go up. So the sheer number of people going in there is incredible. But we have so many millionaire cities. If people went to these cities and were able to buy, work in Lagos, it's about 20 million, even more among them, because there isn't enough connectivity. What happens is that businesses in each of the millionaire cities are restricted to that city. In fact, micro businesses are often restricted to bus stops, just at the bus stop. And you don't see enough movement of micro businesses that become small and later on become medium, which is that sign of growth. And you don't see the productivity increases happening, because even though we have a huge market, 21 million, how do I reach that market in a cost-effective way? All right, so the transport costs, the time it will take me to reach that market, I just stick to the bus stop nearby and sell it. So, and this is frustrating economic activity in this city. let's look at connectivity then, because we see we have density, we have what it takes. What's happening with connectivity? You see, Lagos has suffered, our research shows us that Lagos has suffered from a huge transport infrastructure during the military regime. I mean, there was no accountability. You know, nobody asked questions. Today, we're asking questions. We're having a dialogue, and the commissioner who is representing the governor is telling us this is what we are doing, and told us, we want to hear you. We want to get new ideas on how to improve. Now, things like this didn't happen pre-1999. So what happened then? A lot of infrastructure deficit wasn't built. And since 1999, the government of Lagos has been spending on infrastructure. The commissioner told us that the last budget, about 40% of CapEx is on infrastructure. And not just this year, but if you look at the data, you find that the expenditure on infrastructure has improved, has increased significantly, but it has not covered that deficit that was inherited in the past. If we go to and this shows us a little bit of that. So this is not a problem. Lagos is doing something about it, something. But the challenge is, do we appreciate the extent of this problem, the importance of this problem, and what more could be done to improve it? And that's, I think that's what we want to talk about. There is a heavy reliance on road transport in Lagos. Heavy reliance on road, you know, fixing roads, ensuring drainage is good, ensuring there are no potholes, ensuring roundabouts are removed. The fact is we have only 9,326 kilometers of roads in Lagos to move about 20 million people who demand, all right, use of the road, all right, every. This is not sustainable. It just can't work. So many cars, about 264 cars per kilometer, compared to 11 cars per kilometer world average. I mean, this is huge. The rail and waterways still undeveloped. With due respect to the governor who is represented by the Commissioner for Infrastructure, we've heard a lot about the railway plan. I mean, since the year 2000, from our research, you know, from the time the Governor Tinubu, you know, even before he was sworn in, you know, they had those retreats included some of these things. Actually, you know, you can't eat you can't eat an elephant in one sitting. It will kill you, but you can eat it up if you have enough time. I think since 1999, something is being done. But what could we do to ensure that this elephant, we get rid of this elephant sooner than later? So public and private, I think one of the big problems is that we rely a lot, perhaps too much, on vehicle, on people entering Lagos Island every day, 10 million people entering the island. And of course, what are they using? Most of them, 99% perhaps, are coming using the roads, okay? And we continue talking about them, but we want to see the actions that can really help us move forward. So what are we saying? Lagos is unable to link residents to jobs, to markets. Companies want to be linked to labor markets, to product markets. So connectivity is critical. Residents spend an average, this is the research I'm going to talk about in a few minutes, they spend an average of an average of 2.21 hours going to work, just going to work. We didn't calculate going home. Going to work every day on the average. Some people spend 4 hours or more just going to work. And what does that do to them when they get to work? People get to work and they have to recover. You know, they go and have breakfast. Some will put their head on the table to rest before they work. Productivity will, of course, be low. So connectivity improves access to markets, access to suppliers, access to jobs. You know, and it increases the effective market size, so that your market size is not limited to the bus stop, to people around your location. But your market can be Lagos. It could even be international. We have a seaport, we have an airport. It could be much more if you could get your goods to the airport through Apapa and the deadlock. So there are consequences to this. And what are some of the consequences of this density, but no productivity. This little equation I have here is a little simplistic, but I think illustrates the point that density must go with connectivity if we want to see productivity. And when we see productivity, we see economic medium-sized businesses. And as this happens, the government is also able to get more tax revenues and improve services to citizens. Density makes connectivity easier and cheaper. So 21 million people, that's a plus. The challenge is not, oh, no, we have too many people in Lagos. The challenge is, how do I connect these people? These people who want to make it, who came to Lagos seeking the good life, seeking a better quality of life. How do I connect them? Because the enterprise is already there. You know, how do I connect them to make sure that we can get the best for this city, that we walk in and that we love so much? So one consequence is Lagosians get to work exhausted, skilled, but may not be creative, and they are certainly not as productive as they should be. Grid laws strain commercial activity. They disrupt business. They increase transport costs. They increase time to market. They make us less competitive than we would be. And this is now a global village. We've been saying that for 20 years practically. Global village. If your costs are not, if your products, your services are not competitive, you are practically out of the market. Long commute is also expensive. I mean, low-income residents spend 33% of their budget on transportation. That's according to the World Bank. And that's a huge sum of money. 1/3 of their income just goes on getting them from one place to another. How much do they have left to live a life? And companies, like we said, cannot connect beyond bus stops, beyond the small millionaire cities, you know, because of logistic costs. They can't reach customers. And what's the consequence of this? A congested, fragmented, and disconnected Lagos. We love the city, but that's the truth, that it is disconnected, is fragmented, and is also congested because of connectivity. I'm glad to hear from the Commissioner on Transport representing the governor that transport is one of their priorities, one of the fourth pillar of economic development. We hope that this webinar will help the government to focus much more, to see, as we study, our study shows that there is need to look at connectivity even more critically, because what we are discussing today is affecting every single Lagosian. Children, parents, you know, everybody, business owners, everybody is affected by this. And then when I was discussing this at the beginning of the work, when I was discussing this after one breakfast meeting of the Lagos Business School, I remember one senior manager from First Bank told me, but we don't know what the economic cost of traffic congestion really is, do we? I said, I haven't seen any figures for Nigeria. And he said, well, but in the US, when I was in school, I saw those figures and I said, okay, great. And that's why we got this idea. Let's calculate the costs of traffic congestion for individuals and for businesses. We partnered with a financial derivatives company, and Bismarck Rewane and I worked with his team, and we calculated this cost. And what was the purpose? We want to find out what's the financial cost to individuals of traffic delays, how much extra do they pay because of traffic delays, and what's the opportunity cost to small, micro, and medium scale enterprises. Our sample size was 500. The details are in the report. The response rate was about 82, it was exactly 82%. We calculated the average hourly wage rate using the years of experience of our sample. And we came up with 1,180 Naira as the average hourly wage rate. Of course, if we had used the income pyramid, we would have come up with about 855 Naira. That's the average for Nigeria. But you know that Lagos, I think our wage rate in Lagos is higher. So with that check, we're able to say, yes, what we found out in our research, it can be used. And if the average wage rate then is 1,180 Naira. And what did we find out? That for individuals, the extra due to traffic for an individual who uses public transport is about about 80,000 naira a year. For those who own a vehicle and who use their vehicles is about 130,000 naira a year. Now, this amount is significant because this is money that could have been used for other things. Could have been used to help relatives out of poverty. It could have been saved for future investment. So many things money could have been used for, but this is what it costs Lagosians, individuals, every year. The extra, not what they pay for transportation, the extra is this amount. And that amount is huge, and government and the private sector, all of us need to respond to this. We then also worked out the opportunity costs for the micro enterprises, small businesses, and medium-sized businesses. I said earlier that 2.21 hours is the man-hour loss due to traffic. Opportunity cost of this time, we know, is the average hourly wage rate, which I've told you. And we work this out for micro enterprises, number of employees between 1 and 9. What do they lose? Between 60,000 naira and 500,000 naira monthly, each month. I mean, I couldn't work out the cost. I said, I cannot present the cost for a year. It's a little depressing. So let's stay with monthly figures. This for small businesses, it works at about 450 or 460,000 naira to 2.94 million monthly. That's what a small business loses in terms of the opportunity cost lost. The mid-sized businesses, between 3 million and 15 million naira monthly. That's the loss. This is the final, we just talked about the financial and economic costs of traffic congestion. It's not just that also, we're just looking at the man-hour loss and what's the wage rate. If these people worked instead of being sitting down there doing nothing, what would it cost me? So this cost will be even much higher than this. And for Lagosians as a whole, all right, 10 million daily to traffic. Daily revenue loss is 17 billion naira. Monthly, 380 billion, what it is per year. This is the first time that I'm aware of, at least, that the cost of traffic must be fixed sooner than later. The private sector has a lot of interest in this because they're losing a lot of money. Individuals have a lot of interest in this. From what the governor has said, you can see that the public sector has a lot of interest in fixing this. So we need to come together, and that's the purpose of this dialogue, to see what do we do? How do we stop this drain? How do we stop this loss? How do we reduce the man hours spent on traffic? We have, interestingly, 90% of our sample said they would like to work from home. They would rather work from home. They are more creative and productive working from home. And why? Because of the saving in traffic congestion. So I think if we could get more people working from home or working remotely, the demand for trips will reduce. We need the demand for trips in Lagos to go down. Why go out if I can work from home? But of course, there are other issues here, like broadband. Is it enough, and is it reliable enough for me to do that well? Flexible resumption times. Must everybody resume at 8:30 and close at 5? Can people resume at 10? Just so that we extend the rush hour, the reduce congestion, once we remember the costs of traffic congestion, I think our creative juices, are engaged. Employee reassignments, even company relocation. One company I know moved their head office from Thailand or Ikoyi. Everybody else lived in the mainland. So they just moved the head office there. Productivity went up, and it also reduced the difference in millionaire cities. Why must everybody go to Balogun, Okianri, Agbongbon, and so on for the shopping? Can't we have markets created also within the millionaire cities, each of them? Central business districts created within them. Businesses created so that each city is like it operates as a city. After all, the population of some of these billionaire cities is equal to the population of Abuja, Aba. I just showed you some Kaduna. I just showed you some statistics on this. So these are cities that are like states. The population is the same as the population of some states, but they don't have central business district. They don't have enough jobs. They all go looking for jobs on the island. So companies also can help by getting full of private vehicles into a company transport, can take a little few more people out. I know my time is going up, so it's running out. So let me start getting to the end. Now, we also, we talk this, the first slide, we talk, consider these demand side solutions, and then we don't look at the supply side solutions. The rail project is long overdue. We have heard so much about it, we want to see it happen. It's time for implementation. The costs involved are too much, are way too much. For individuals, for businesses, even the state government is losing. What is it losing? The revenues it could get, the tax revenues it could get. So it's something that we all share. We all want this to improve, so we must get the rail done. Water transportation, get people off it. It will be more interested in investing in some of these things, because we can't expect the state government to invest in all of this. And Lagos State is very good with public-private sector, partnerships. So we see here huge areas, many areas for partnership. Developing millionaire cities and linking these cities by rail, by water transport. Refocusing. That this is not about roads. Roads will not get us out of this mess. We've got to maintain the roads, we've got to keep them, but they are not the solution. The solution will be the rail and the water transport, well connected to the roads, and then we may be thinking about a Lagos that works. If Lagos is to work, something more needs to be done. We can't have a gaping wound and put plaster over it or put a bandage over it. The solutions must be adequate because the problem is a big one. So how do we need to conclude here? And I would say our research shows us that connectivity is critical for economic growth. Lagos requires an efficient mass transport network to enhance productivity, to create jobs, to improve living standards and grow the economy. That many people came into Lagos and they continue coming every day, but they come with skills. Even if they didn't come with a lot of skills, they are coming with hunger in the belly and fire in the belly. And that makes for very good employees. They know what they are here for. They did not come here to sit down and look at the bridges, as I say, or look at the Koi Bridge, which is now, people actually go there to admire. This is not the purpose. This is not why they came here. So, in fact, if you ask any citizen, one of the top 3 problems they have is that if Lagos is able to solve this, and when I say Lagos, I mean the individuals, the private sector, the public sector, if we can come together to solve this, we know that we would have solved a big problem facing Lagosians today. To finish, I would like to thank the research team. Many times I felt I was working with the smartest people around town. Tayo Fagule, he actually found traffic congestion as a problem while we were looking at the transformation of Lagos. Tayo Lawal, he's been disseminating this research, doing a phenomenal job. Ugonwa, Vivian, and Eminat, they helped us with a lot of the desk research to make this program come out. We're going to watch a video in a few minutes, and that video was produced by Peter Oke, another young person. I've worked with these millennials. Some are not so millennial now, but most of them are millennials, and they've taught me in the process. And something that I find impressive with this team too is that they are as committed to Lagos as we are. We have been in Lagos, and some of us cannot think of living elsewhere, but we want to make it work. Thank you very much, and would like to give it back to Tayo Fagule.
Thank you so much, Prof. And yes, I mean, it was a pleasure working with the millennial on Lagos traffic, just to get an idea, a visual idea, and getting voices about people talking about Lagos, experiences of Lagos and traffic in Lagos. So watch a short video now, and then we'll have our panel discussion.
Generally, Lagos is the financial hub of Nigeria. Everybody knows this. If you want to make it commercial, come to Lagos. Everybody is essentially looking to go to the commercial hub for a better standard of living, better jobs, better paying jobs.
I moved to Ghana and I came back to Nigeria. I just realized that there are more opportunities here in Lagos.
I don't know if this city was built to be like this, because with all of the people swarming in, it leads us to a nightmare: traffic. You would agree with me, Lagos is known for its traffic. I think it's now an international thing. We're known for our traffic, and many times it can be a horrendous situation. You might spend 2-3 hours before you get to your location. Now, this is very discouraging. It dawns on my creativity as a filmmaker.
Traffic would drive you mad. Sometimes I go to work super tired because I spent hours in traffic. And you never get used to Lagos traffic. You never get used to it.
So on a scale, it's a no-brainer. I mean, traffic is essentially one, if not the most pressing problem in Lagos.
With Lagos traffic, that's the problem. It's not the distance that bothers me. It's the fact that when I think of how much time I will spend to be in a certain position for so long, that already starts to exhaust you mentally. And then on the physical aspect of it, for me personally, I find myself adjusting, reclining my seat more often than not. I'm like, but I've put this thing in the best position possible that I always drive with. But I feel this discomfort even deep down in my spine, because I'm just seated. So sometimes you're slouching, sometimes you're trying to stretch and lean back, sometimes you're at an angle. It's just, and then by the time you get to your destination, believe me, you're actually tired. You're literally tired.
You spend that amount of time on the road, and when you get to work, you're meant to be productive. You're meant to be able to, you're meant to be productive, and you close and you go back on the road, and you're on the road for hours. You get home late again. You have maybe 3, 4, or 5 hours to sleep, and you're awake the next morning. So it's just counterproductive.
If you look at it logically, we have a fixed amount of roads currently, and we have an increasing amount of vehicles.
Being wasted. For example, today, just leaving house 30 minutes earlier than the time I leave house cost me 2 hours more than the average time I use. So I think this just has a lot to play on our productive hours, and it's not really helping Lagosians.
Always from Yanukwaja to Ikoyi, coming from work every day, facing traffic from in the morning. I will left out from 4 o'clock, but before we get to VI, it will be 2 hours around 8, facing traffic. Going back, before we reach out, I will feel weak and tired.
Getting home, going back to my family and everything, I'll be so stressed. For me to wake up very early morning again, coming back, I think the government needs to do something about this road. Even the road up, everything. I don't know. I'm so tired.
It actually makes me tired personally, because I don't have a help at home and I have to do my business. And by the time I'm going back home, it's very tiring. you feel more fatigued on the road than even doing your business.
Just the essence of what we're all doing here today. And well, yes, it seems as if Lagos has lived with traffic for so long. I mean, I think Lagos traffic is also, and part of the way of fixing it is to talk about it. And today we have with us a very, very diverse panel of people who will be discussing how we intend, or what ways really to fix transport in Lagos so that it can be more productive, it can be a more livable city. With us today, I have three, a lady and two gentlemen who, given their diverse experiences and diverse backgrounds, will add a lot of value to our discussion. I'd first of all like to introduce Mrs. Toki Mabugunje. She is the president of Lagos Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industries. She's a business consultant with specialty on small, medium enterprises, which is very important because Lagos is really home to a lot of small businesses, as you can see from that short video. She's run her consultancy, TMC, for 20 years, and she really gives a lot of advice in legal and advisory to small businesses, both within Nigeria and outside of Nigeria, Africa-wide. And in her free time, she writes poetry. You're welcome, Mrs. Mabugunje. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. I'm pleased to be here. Thank you.
Fantastic. Also, we have with us Mr. Wale Adedinwo. Now, he is a mechanical engineer, studied mechanical engineering, but you won't believe what he's doing for a living right now. He's doing two things, wearing two caps. First, he is the president of the Council of Chartered Institute Personnel Management, as well as the HR director of Flour Mills. He's had 28 years in manufacturing and operations, and he's ended up that a lot of HR experience, really managing processes for some of the biggest multinationals in Nigeria. Mr. Adedino, welcome. Good morning.
Thank you very much, sir.
Fantastic. Good. Then on to our third panelist, he is Joseph Akumbiade, and he has a background in technology. So has set up, founded many tech startups. One is University, which basically teaches people software development, science, product design. Co-founder of Budgets, which is really engaging for a long time now. They've been tracking government expenditure on infrastructure and their budgets, and that's why Mr. Akumbiade is with us today. 15 years experience. Welcome, Joseph. Good. Joseph, you might want to unmute so we can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Fantastic. So I'll start off quickly. So to our guests who are watching wherever you are, you can send in your question Slido and send your questions directly to each of the panelists or the presenter, Professor Bade, who made the presentation, or the Honorable Commissioner for Transport, who is representing His Excellency Babajide Sanwo-Olu, Dr. Frederick Oladeyinde. So I'll start off with Mrs. Mabugunje. From banks to factories to small and large businesses, Lagos is the commercial capital of Nigeria. However, the truth is, as we saw in that video and as Professor Bajo said, most of the businesses in Lagos are small to micro enterprises. Now, how does congestion stunt their growth? And from your experience working with and consulting with small businesses?
All right, thank you so much for that question. And it's a very pertinent one, particularly when traffic congestion at ports is always top on our agenda. So as you know, the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industries, 132 years old, 133 this year,
Wow.
and that makes us older than Lagos. So we've been around as long as Lagos has been around.
True.
And we've been in the game that long as well. The chamber also houses everything from micro to very large, like a Dangote that's continental. And it's the same problem for all of them. So the biggest thing of all is one, the way that it increases the cost of doing business, the difficulty and the ease of doing business. And personally, my personal opinion is that Lagos has been struggling with the way that growth has outpaced planning for decades. So they have been playing a catch-up game for so long. And in doing that, planning has seemed to come after the fact as opposed to coming before the fact. As a result of that, we're in such a dire situation now. And tiers of government. Lagos, having been capital of this country at one point, has a lot of federal assets, which of course includes the ports. How ports can be managed and controlled. For businesses, we've spoken a lot about productivity. Prof has spoken to that fact, and we've seen how much has been lost through that. But the losses are more colossal with business. Businesses have lost millions and millions of dollars, one, through spoilage of their products before it reaches destination, two, through the bio network that leads to the traffic really have to be passed on. There's the scarcity that comes with the difficulty of getting your products to destination. Think of the heightened insecurity that has taken place in the last few years as a result of congestion. People are being robbed in traffic these days.
Okay.
And the police can't be everywhere. Traffic, a lot of Lagos citizens sitting back while trying to move in traffic. I must say that COVID-19 has been a blessing in some, because it fast-tracked the use and work from home. But we find that even with working from home, there's still an infrastructure that we need to deal with in terms of broadband. We do know that Lagos State, the governor has told us at the chamber about what they're doing around broadband connectivity. But yes, we're playing a real catch-up game. So I am pretty pleased, in answer to your question, with some of you. One, the big issue around developing other cities. Ikorodu, Ekpe, Badagry, them becoming cities, Aja, all of those places, well, Kosofe local government, where you have a great concentration, a huge concentration of the citizen state, and making those places work. So people aren't coming all the way. Everyone is headed for Lagos. Well, not everyone, but a lot of people are headed for Lagos Island. That needn't be the case if we spread.
Okay, good. Thank you, Mrs. Mabukunje. So really, Lagos really could, in a way, really facilitate development of small businesses by focusing on these issues, okay? Better managing the traffic, gridlock in the port, and then encouraging development and connectivity to other parts of larger growing cities in its periphery, rather than that concentration on the island. Very good. Mr. Wale Adediran, you wear two caps, as I mentioned, okay? You're director of CIPM, but also you're also managing the human resource of one of the largest fast-moving consumer company. Now, the interesting thing is that 6 months ago, you wrote a post on LinkedIn where you shared your thoughts freely on the economic impact of a proper gridlock on businesses. Could you just talk us through what must be done in the light of what we've just seen and what we're talking about? What can be done to fix that?
Thank you very much. Let me first of all start by congratulating Prof and Business Day for numbers reality to the fear that we all have known to exist all these years. And like Mrs. Maboguje mentioned, this issue is creating a catch-up experience for Lagos State. I must also say that in focusing on catching up quickly, His Excellency Governor of Lagos State had created a strategy that I think every Lagosian must embrace and support the government to drive through. That was what informed my write-up on LinkedIn. THEMES is the strategic acronym that this current administration in Lagos is driving. And the first letter in that acronym is T, which stands for transportation, traffic management and transportation. Believe me, I know it's a huge priority for this. And by the way, Governor Sanwo-Olu is a member of our institute. And our institute is about delivering value through people, through productivity. We know that the only way out for our country, the greatest asset we have, are the talents we have in the country. And that is demonstrated already with this report by Daniel. You know, now we have numbers we can speak to. So, about the write-up itself, I know and I'm convinced, based on personal research, that there are two pillars to solving Lagos State's transport problem. The first pillar is law and order itself. In the absence of order, the second pillar, which is critical, will not come. And the second pillar is have all it needs. The government cannot raise all the funds it needs to catch up with the infrastructural deficit we have in transportation sector. Again, I repeat, the strategy of the government is superb, talented Nigerians, and they've come up with to reality can only system that is not orderly. Today, as Lagosians, we pay on each and every one of us. How can we to informal taxation old way from the look at the yellow additional infrastructure for transportation? That is going to be challenged. It will be a real war to change the system. So what do we need to do? Funding is not coming as issue, and I think Joseph will expound more on it because he's a tech person. So what we are suggesting is this. We can control the flow of traffic into the red zones where we have heavy congestion. The users of the services, of the haulage services, can on a daily basis be hooked up onto an app that the service providers too can hook up onto, and the law enforcement agencies of government can also call a system. I'm glad to say that something close to that is being done by Lagos State government as we speak. But perhaps the leg that's the bridges and the road as they are into the process. And I know that there are great brains in this country that can help create more and more administrative controls. What have we done in CIPM to help bring some sanity into this? We've virtually taken work to the workforce. So we virtually shifted the workplace from the congestion zones to individual homes. But unfortunately, it's not every kind of work that could be so moved. True. There are jobs that will have to be done in situ. So there are additional control that could come in if there is law and order. There are 24 hours in a day. We all don't have to sleep from 12 midnight till 7 a.m. That's not the way it works elsewhere in the world where you have mega cities. We need to divide Lagosians into shades so that whilst it's only half a percentage total land space in Nigeria, the Commissioner said, additional 29 are relocating to Lagos every hour. We need administrative control. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Adediro. Fantastic. And I see Joseph is already smiling, and I'm sure he has a. So, well, now for you, Joseph, I mean, you have a tech background, and I'm sure you have your thoughts really around what we can do using an app or whether. But I'll say before I go to what the side of the solution, but I just want to know if you, the Honorable Commissioner said something, and I think it's important. It says Lagos cannot spend its way out of congestion. I mean, that's the reality that I think they made peace with that. Lagos cannot spend its way out of congestion. So now the question I want to ask is, from what budget has been gathering, some of the data has been gathering, what is spent on infrastructure now? Is it near the level required to catch? Is it even insufficient, really?
Okay, thank you once again for this opportunity to be part of this conversation. So one of the things you will see with this year's budget is the fact that you can see like a 100% beef up, especially on the traffic management and transportation budget infrastructure. And I actually saw that there was 100 billion bond on infrastructure last year. I think it was about January of last year. That is
signed, yes,
which is the third part in the series of about 500 billion, which will be fully matured by 2023. So we're talking about 92 billion right now in the 2021 budget for traffic management. But you see, the challenge is that we're talking of about $50 billion dollar deficit in terms of deficit for the state for infrastructure. And the entire capital budget for 2021 is about 702 billion naira. And so when you look at it, you're talking of about 27 years. If you invest the entire capital budget, in infrastructural development, so about 27 years, it will take us about 27 years to build us. And so just like Mwali just said right now, one of the things that is clear at this point that we need the private sector massive investment. Now, I talked about funding. It's not just, when we talk about funding, I would say, raise 100 billion bond. How much is 100 billion in? 100 billion is just about 2 billion. How many billion dollars there? It's 100 billion. Okay, that's not up to $1 billion. So we're talking of, what the bond we are raising is kind of, far from the amount of money we need to spend. Right. So the biggest challenge is that we actually need to spend multiple of the type of investments that we are currently putting into this game. Multiple of it. But what personally I would say is that I think this needs to look at some of the money they are raising, how they can use that to facilitate things like public-private partnership, to create ease of movement through some of the activities that we show. If you want to attract more investors, you have to show them that you're actually doing a whole lot. Most of the time, it's in forum like this that I get to hear what Lagos State is doing. Lagos is actually doing a whole lot, which I think should be sufficient to convince more investors to come in. But I think they need to spend a little more on PR, especially this government, to actually attract, investments in this critical sector, that is state. So if 27 years is such a far period of time. So if we want to cover the rest of about 50 billion, what can we do to say bring in about an average of about $5 billion yearly for the next 10 years, for to be able to actually cover up this gap. So I'll say that a lot needs to be done, with respect to spending. I believe that the human resource, the know-how and all of that, Lagos, they already have it. The commissioner, talked about technology. So I'm not saying technology as so much of the problem that, maybe app and all of that. Yes, there are a lot of all of the technical system. We are waiting for opportunity for policies to favor us to come and disrupt the market. Because I believe, what Uber did, started in San Francisco. It was actually trying to disrupt, just markets like San Francisco and the likes. And I know Lagos State does stuff with maybe Unilag or LASU or something on transportation, but I think it's too small. We need more participate in this research, you need to crowdsource ideas, get small businesses and all of that to come up with innovation. You'll be amazed when you look at the audio revolution that we have. The deficit in those economies were far from what happened as soon as you have like steam engine and all of that, all of those kind of things. So innovation for me, because if you look at bringing $5 billion into infrastructure yearly in Lagos State, it looks like wow, like a daunting task, But the truth of the matter is that with innovation, you can cut down that number drastically. Innovation can solve that problem. I wouldn't want to go into details of possible ideas because that would be a conversation. But what I will say, we need to definitely open up that door on policy.
Totally agree. I totally agree because
yes.
Yeah, thank you, Joseph. I think that's a major point from the research that there's a need for signaling, as they say in economics, for the state. Okay, fine. Communicating these ideas, what they want to do, is signaling to the private sector. Okay, that these are opportunities for you to invest. Signaling to people where they can relocate their business if they have to. Okay, this is the future plan for Lagos, for this part of Lagos. Businesses can start investing ahead, knowing that the infrastructure will be there. And also those who want to invest in infrastructure also more or less a signal to say, okay, this is an investment opportunity. So yes, you're right. To really ramp up and catch up with the pace of development, the government of Lagos will probably have to do more in communicating, in signaling its intentions so that it can also attract the needed capital. Very well. I'll just go around again because I think what we're seeing the law and order and funding are really critical from our conversations, and we're also getting questions from our participants, those who are taking part online. Once again, I would like to just remind them that you can send your questions to slido, slido.com. The hashtag is #BDcode to enter to send your questions. It's the hashtag BTTC. And with that, you can send questions directly to any one of our esteemed panelists. So, Ms. Mabunja, we have what we call there's good gridlock and there's bad gridlock, what we in Lagos call go slow. Okay. Now, I know you're
listen for a few seconds there.
For traffic enforcement.
And why?
Would you prioritize?
It needs to be enforced. One thing that Nigeria has been very short of is law. Enforcement has always been our problem. Law is always up of 3 minutes, and the next thing is some people start moving against traffic.
Exactly.
So there's that lack of discipline. I totally agree with him. Total lack of discipline. So enforcement is the issue. I want to say that in that enforcement, we need to also ensure that the personnel who LASTMA first came, we used to have Lagos, that the fear of LASTMA was the beginning of wisdom, if you remember those days.
Yes.
This is how Lagos needs. I'm not where things wrong, negotiations, but all laws need to be enforced. Transport, responsible about commitment of pressure, and we do care. So what we need to do, Research Institute, nail on the head. I've always said, the early part of my work life, I was a civil servant myself, and how to promote what it does. And because we don't understand how to promote what we do, Nigeria has a bad reputation outside, right? Because other people are managing their public image. So government needs to be able to do that. Part of doing that is engaging more dialogues like this. Let's open up the space for PPP. If there's anything that business wants, is they want an enabling environment to do their business. They want ease of doing business, So I want to encourage a lot more of that as well. But the enforced, let's not pick which one we're going to do.
All right. No, we can't pick and choose with the laws. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Okay, all laws must be enforced. One of our participants. Now, you're the president of the Chartered Institute of personal management. You've said talent is our great asset. Now, I think from this question, it seems we've overlooked one part, and I think they would like us to address it, is that beyond the naira and kobo impact of congestion, what about the long-term psychological impact of this congestion? What are you seeing as president of CIPM and also as HR director of FM Flour Mills?
Thank you very much for that question. And let me echo again what Mrs. Mabuguje and Joseph said about enforcing the law. Because if we don't, what that causes is what our members, the HR practitioners, are facing along with their employers, which is every business is now creating a mental wellness unit.
Wow.
To take in the aspect of mental wellness. The impact is not, apart from the annual congestion rent of 80,000 to 130,000 that each and every one of them pay every year, there is mental stress that comes from spending or wasting. And that is why we have, taken work to them in their homes where possible. However, that had not fixed it all, because even working at home has its mental pressure.
True.
And what we are beginning to see is that more and more of our great talents are dropping their resignations because they are just overwhelmed. Some are just relocating outside of the country. A lot of trooping out to Canada as well, that you'll never imagine that Nigerians will be interested in being. And yours truly can tell you that we even have some. And it's not just mental. It's also some other long-term effects like, look, the benzene, including leukemia. I don't have the data, but I am sure if you will see an upward surge. And it's because, apart from the noise, apart from the stress of sitting for long hours, which in itself causes some cardiac issue for some people, and people gain weight. And as you gain weight, there's something called chair disease. You go to the office, you sit for long hours, you're going home, you sit again for long hours in the car. Blood clotting. Look, some people would experience all these issues because that is what happens when you sit for long hours. The time it takes to fly from Lagos to London is just about 6 hours. And then you have people, commute between Apapa and Ikorodu for more than 6 hours. So it's causing a lot of medical issues. I call the medical in this traffic pressure and emotional. So the eye problem is real in Lagos. People are physically at pains. By the time they get home, it's 12 midnight. By the time they go to bed, they need to wake up at 4 a.m. again to get ready to leave the house by 5 a.m. And there's the emotion of why me?
Yeah.
Why me? And for HR practitioners, we are creating units in our different businesses to attend to these 5 problems.
Well, yes. Now, does this talk about really, and I think this is where your experience, your tech experience, and then of course working with budget, because I'm sure you also studied the budget of Lagos, and you can also see maybe how much is being deployed towards, say, the technology infrastructure. Because now with remote work and with the lockdown and the pandemic, I think remote work is inevitable. Okay, and that's why we can even have to go. But I would like to, so basically you have Lagos is under pressure from congestion. Okay, now to ease and release that pressure, they're wondering really, can we have cities, okay, just around Lagos? How is that possible? That as Mr. Adedino said, people are leaving and moving elsewhere. So what technology will be required? Technology will be required to make that possible. Okay, so not just remote work just because of the pandemic, but on a long-term basis. And from your knowledge of Lagos, how much is being invested in technology?
States, that was such a huge one. It's a major one. Why I question that, to say that, why is the state the one doing it, cutting maybe 8,000 kilometers? But one of the challenges that is seen by, see people still raising a story, people building, this is 2021, 21 million. Most of this housing are supposed to last 100 years. So if we look at it, if we look at long-term strategy, we need to, and I don't know whether they are giving approvals. It's such a terrible thing that I think we need to stop immediately as I speak. Gaba is stopping, ways against whatever it is. What is the dry land? And I think Gaba land is very good. We are approving like 20 floors upward. Look at Shanghai that has problems with us. Of fiber that you need is less, because you now have clusters of people in the same building who are able to, when you talk about, and you can have companies coming to buildings, and they can actually put, both housing and, when you talk about remote work, sometimes innovation, you need some level of clusters of people coming together. They can actually take like multiple floors, 10 floors and all that, to continue their business, impacting, long term. So I see that it's a policy problem. It's an enforcement problem. We talked about law and all of that. We have to be really, we can't allow one Baba Saleh or somebody to keep saying that we should just, no, it is the future of our children. It's the future, it's affecting. You talk about pollution, you might have a lab here at university, and you build sensors for monitoring gases, pollution. If you know the value, if you know the pollution level in Lagos State, it's really very bad. And it's because of enforcement, I must say. So I think for remote work, 6,000 kilometers in addition to what one has done, Fiber One, is really a laudable one, and I must give it to Lagos State for that. But I think we need to do multiple of that yearly, not just 1,000 kilometers and be celebrating it for 2-3 years. By this 20, to start another project of about another 6,000 kilometers. So long term, we need to spend more money, but it must cost across multiple industries. We talk about mobility. It's not just about the car. It's about the when you drive through. So if you say we have over 9,000 roads in Lagos, most of these roads, they are so tiny. And the reason why it's not because it's so tiny, that cannot take like 2 cars going in opposite direction. It's just because people are parking on the road. And so housing, let's talk about housing. We must talk about internet, connection. I don't know where we have an orientation agency in Lagos State. You see, there's a problem with our culture. Most of the time we neglect these things and we just think that things just change. Developed society, they are deliberate to create cultural change, amongst through, multi-stakeholder, conversation, jingles and all of that, radio programs. Someone careful write the law of the land. Let me just write the song. Let me write the music. What kind of song are we listening to in Lagos? The state can influence artists that are very influential. So I sing song that is geared towards cultural change for the state. They can invest in produced by Nollywood to gear towards, cultural change. What that 20.
I think the scope is for innovation is there, and I think the avenues for messaging is also there, as you said from the onset. Really, that Lagos has to do a lot more in itself. And our viewers couldn't we'll have to keep to time. Just one last question from Slido, and I think I'll just give the panelists, each one of you, 1 minute. We have, and you've all mentioned it, this one. So you could say that someone wants to know, one of our participants wants to know, let's say, so what is government doing to come up with such plans? So I think I'll leave that for the Honorable Commissioner to just basically speak to that, because I think it's some consensus from all three of you. But I'll just give you, starting with Mrs. Mambo, in 1 minute, you have a phone call with the governor, or in same with the governor, your advice. Thank you, so we can wrap up.
Okay, my quick word to the Honorable Commissioner is that at the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, We already have a pretty good relationship with the government, with the Lagos state government. I would like to suggest that our chamber gets together with your ministry, Honorable Commissioner for Transport. Let's have a wider conversation about how private sector can partner with transportation.
Wonderful. No.
Your Excellency, we are proud of what you're doing. You're representing the HR management profession very well. We know you're making a lot of effort to communicate and engage with Lagosians. We are open to support you, know where Lagos is going.
What would you say?
So thank you, Mr. Governor. Thank you for taking our time to be part of this conversation. I think what we need is transportation is not just about mobility alone. It's also about using data to make decisions, to know what people are doing on the road, why people are.
Thank you very much. Quite an interesting session, and I must say I gained a lot. But let me respond to we communicate the plans of Lagos. Hear anybody say like maybe Lagos is unlucky because other states in Nigeria failed states, and so everybody is trooping to Lagos, and so Lagos is having to take the blame for other states just by the side. In terms of ensuring that we tackle the connectivity problem and congestion in Lagos, I started by saying that Lagos has a strategic transport master plan. Now, before we developed that plan, Lagos State developed what we call model city plans for the rich cities that you have described, and most in particular, some regional areas in Lagos. So, for example, we have the Ikorodu model city plan that looks at housing, it looks at the transport infrastructure, it looks at water supplies, everything that needs to that you need to put in place to make that area function. We have the Alimosho model city plan, and we have the Lekki model city plan, and we have model city plans for the whole area. And the essence of having this model city plan is to distribute and to ensure that people don't have to go to the island to get the best job, so that we can distribute those jobs across Lagos. And what we're simply done is to take those model city plans and then build a transport infrastructure plan around it. And that's where your rail lines connect the various cities. The BLT has its own function. We are reforming the bus sector. And let me just put it on record that over time, Lagos will phase out the yellow buses, because the yellow buses are not conducive for a mega city like Lagos. That's why we're coming up with the blue buses that you see around. We're inviting the private sector to participate in the provision of public transport services, and we're deploying various technology just to ensure that we can up our game in terms of efficiency. Now, so that's by the side. Let me talk about Apapa, what we're doing in Apapa. I know there was a question raised on the connection between the federal government, the state government, and possibly the local government. So the Lagos state government is collaborating with the state government just to ensure that we bring an end to the menace in Apapa. So for example, Lagos State as well as the Nigerian Port Authority has invited the concessionaire. So we've appraised that, we've looked at the credentials, and that concessionaire has developed an app. I think they call it the ATO app. It's an app that will be deployed on the 27th of February. And Lagos State has actually committed some land, 31 hectares of land in Igomu. It's called the Bola Ahmed Tinubu Truck Park to complement what's in Lily Pond. And then in Ogun State, we're talking to the Ogun State government to secure a land in Ogiri. And so you use the call-up system to link the various trucks that have any business in Apapa on a particular day. You don't have to be in Apapa. And just to make sure that we put in punitive measures. So Lagos State has developed, has come up with its own task force just to ensure that any truck on the road is towed, because you have not been on the road at all. You're either in your truck park or on your way to the port. and not parking on the road. Very soon, in the next couple of months, you would hear of Lagos State's parking strategy. So there's a parking authority that is coming that we have set up, and the idea is for Lagos State to regulate parking in on our roads. And when you look at the way we park indiscriminately, etc., we can actually create more capacity by ensuring that people park in the centralized way of parking. Technology will play an important role in ensuring that people pay local government, they don't pay state government as well as federal government. So you only pay to one post. So you have the central, the ticketing system that I talked about, which will be used for the public transport, can also be used for parking. So that ticket would.
So, brief interruption there. I think the Honorable Commissioner will just wait again and see if he can join us, because I think he's really giving us the responses, responding quite well to the issues that we raised here, and I think they're quite revealing. We'll just give him a few more minutes and see if he can connect, because I think really he's touching on the points that are raised there, and I think this is one of the values of this, having everyone from both sides or all sit in one room and just spark these conversations, and I think that's the whole idea. Okay, he's back. Honorable Commissioner, Dr. Oladende, please continue. Thank you. Sorry about that. So, you can continue. Dr.
Okay.
Oladende.
Yes, I'm back. Sorry. Yeah, sorry for the technology.
It's fine.
So I was saying that we do have. Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I think it's blurring.
Can you hear me?
With some difficulty.
Can I get?
We can hear you with some difficulty, but it's not.
Okay. Funding is something that we need to with my network now.
Okay. All right.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Great. Okay. That's the beauty of having more technology network in the room.
Yeah. So you're saying with those plans, funding.
So we have plans. So the issue is funding. How do we attract funding? And it's important that we create that environment where people can come and do business. And that's why we set up Lagos Global, which is a one-stop shop for investors to come and get all the various information that's required. Now, I want to talk about law and order. Now, law and order is something, it's a problem. And that's why we're deploying various forms of technology to help LASMA, what we are trying is to ensure people break the law, we're able to cut in a cell, that causes congestion. So I want to stop the face-to-face interaction. Link cameras to everywhere. We talk about the 6,000 fiber cable that we're laying everywhere. We're also deploying 2,000 cameras across all of Lagos State, just to make sure that we cover everything that is happening. And so if you break the law, we can capture that, and then we run it against our database, and then the ticket is issued, and then it's sent to your post. And then when people find out that they're paying so much fine, maybe that would regulate their behavior. And I think that's an important intervention that this government will be doing. So apart from the internet, where we also deploy a lot of information. We have to find creative ways of getting to Lagos. The last one to touch on is data. So Lagos State is very big on data. We collect a lot of traffic data. We'll make that available. We'll work with with LCCI. We'll work with every investors, researchers that want to do some more research in transportation. I actually started my career when I came back to Nigeria in Lamata. Lamata has a huge database collecting information. There's a lot of household data. So, I mean, with that, we were able to develop a model which informed where we put our rail, where we put the BLT, and then where we put the various infrastructure to make Lagos greater again. So we're happy to talk to the various institutions. We have data. We can do with more data, and we can do with more research. I'm actually very excited with the kind of data that I saw today, and let me thank Professor Franca for the detailed research that she has done. I hope I can get a copy of the presentation so that we can expand it and then take it beyond the discussion point and just make it a reality. So thank you very much. Let's work together. I think that's one thing that's always been lacking in Nigeria. In Lagos, the public sector always attacking the private sector, not working together, but this is a start, and I'm quite excited, and I'm willing to actually talk to anybody that's interested in doing research and then taking this our transportation network to the next level. So thank you very much. Let me just stop there.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Sorry for the technology.
No. It's one of those things. No problem at all. I won't waste your time either, and I think you all have a busy day ahead of us. I'll just hand to Professor Franca Obaje. I think she will more or less cover everything in responding, and after that we will ask Dr. Kitty to call it a day for us. Thank you once again, Mr. Mabobunje, Mr. Dediron, your Honorable Commissioner, Dr. Ladende, and Joseph for your time. Professor Obaje.
Thank you very much. This has been a wonderful, insightful, and productive dialogue. I look forward to more of this between the public sector and the private sector. I think both sides have benefited a lot from this. I would like to thank very much the Governor of Lagos State, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, represented by Lagos State's Honorable Commissioner of Transport, Dr. Frederick Oladende. In addition to what the government is already doing to decongest the state and make Lagosians more connected and productive, I'm sure that our analysis, findings, and recommendations will, along together with the experiences, insights, and also practicable solutions that our brilliant panelists have brought to bear to this discussion, will enrich you and also enable Lagos to develop sustainable programs to improve traffic and traffic congestion in Lagos. I also want to use the opportunity to thank our informed and brilliant panelists who have done justice to the issue at hand, to Mrs. Toki Mabobunje, the president of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Wale Adeniran, the president of Chartered Institute of Personnel Management, and of course, Mr. Joseph Ogunbiade, the co-founder of Budget. We appreciate your valued contributions and look forward to having you on other programs in the future. I thought to make Lagos, more productive and more connected, to make businesses more profitable and government also more viable. We have lived in Lagos for so long. In fact, for some of us, we can't imagine living elsewhere. This is our city, this is our home, and we want to make it work. So we, the people, we must continue to hold government accountable for significant improvements in connectivity in Lagos mega city. We are so happy. I am so happy to hear what the ministry is doing. It's, I think, great to have had here Dr. Oladende himself, who is on the matter, who is dealing with this on a daily basis, tell us what Lagos State is doing think is right. We may not be listening to Lagos State on radio and television, so they probably have to look for other ways to reach out to us. And this public-private sector dialogue is one great opportunity to do so. We also must play our part, we the people, not just holding government to account, but we must play our part, obey traffic laws, join the conversation with specific suggestions. If I, after researching this with the team, were to disobey, a traffic law, drive the wrong way, or not stop when, at the red light, I think I would have destroyed everything. I have to begin with myself and not just highlight something which I like to, bring to the fore. The importance of data. And Dr. Olade, the Honorable Commissioner, has also mentioned this. He's been, gathering data and he's ready to make that data available. It's so different when you have data for decision making and then you go ahead to implement. You are sure of what you're doing. You're not just using your guts. There is a research institute for research would like to continue to do is to champion conversations based on research that will lead to sustainable change in Nigeria and Africa. Finally, allow me also to thank the Daniel having this public-private sector dialogue. I'm eternally grateful to them for their unwavering support. And I would like to say that if you would like to buy on the screen, is that same. So his email address of the report.
Delight was actually started to tell innovative, exciting, and positive food stories out of Lagos, Nigeria.
Being the foremost luxurious goods company in the entire West Africa is a big deal.
Will you have every opportunity? No. But you see, the opportunities you lose on account of your value system, that's your opportunity cost for what you believe, and is the price you must be willing to pay.
Thank you very much and bless you.
Delight was actually started to tell innovative, exciting, and positive food stories out of Lagos, Nigeria.
Being the foremost luxurious goods company in the entire West Africa is a big deal.
Will you have every opportunity? No. But you see, the opportunities you lose on account of your value system, that's your opportunity cost for what you believe, and is the price you must be willing to pay.